Vivan los Knights! Hello and welcome to tonight's Spotlight. I'm Lane Glenn, president here at Northern Essex Community College in the beautiful Merrimack Valley of Northeast Massachusetts. We have amazingly talented faculty and staff all around us at NECC. They're teaching, they're researching, they're preparing students for careers in a world of work that is constantly changing. And every single one of them has something really interesting that they can share. Today, I'm very happy to say I am in the amazingly decorated office of Professor Arnaldo Robles-Reyes on the Haverhill campus. Professor Robles-Reyes has been teaching Spanish here at Northern Essex Community College for less than 2 years, but in that relatively short amount of time, he's become very well known across both of our campuses. He offers workshops for employees in conversational Spanish so we can go and practice. He's helped his colleagues understand how language acquisition works so they can incorporate techniques of language acquisition in their classes, and students can accelerate learning content in courses. A lot of amazing things. He knows all kinds of things about languages. So really pleased to be here with him today. Professor Robles-Reyes, Arnaldo? Can I call you
Arnaldo?
Arnaldo. I think you know this. I think I've shared this with you. I've been slowly trying to learn Spanish for a few years, using Duolingo like a lot of people do on my phone. I think I've got like a 1,185-day streak or something like that going.
Nice.
So I picked up some vocabulary, and I still struggle a lot with conversation. Right? Learning a new language, especially for beginners, can be really challenging. What are some things that you do to make language learning more engaging and accessible for your students, particularly those beginners?
Okay. Well, something that's a benefit of common class at NECC is that our courses provide two-way communication. When you learn a new language, the language needs to be flowing back and forth so you can receive feedback as you're talking. When it's just one way, like Duolingo, nobody's giving you feedback. You're not interacting as well as you could do it with a human. Get paired up with a classmate, and each classmate has 50% of the information that the other classmate needs to complete the task. Okay. So implicitly and directly, you're sort of pushing that student to produce what they know, to produce the language, because that's what's needed to complete the language. For you to interact with the native speaker, you don't even have to leave your seat. All you have to do is go on the webcam, open the computer, and what I've done in my other classes before is I've paired them up with a native speaker abroad, anywhere in Latin America.
Okay.
And that's been part of a project for them to do. And you might be thinking, but Arnaldo, how are they interacting if it's only a beginning level class? Well, there's still the cultural aspect, right? They can use the language to learn about the culture, and that's what they do in these conversations at the beginning levels. So they don't have to know Spanish fully. They don't have to speak complete sentences. They can learn aspects of the culture. So if they ever do travel, they can be respectful and mindful of the perspectives that are a little bit different than the way we know of in the United States.
Sure. Let's explore that a little further, because language and culture are deeply intertwined.
Mm-hmm.
To take some of what you just said a little bit farther, what are some ways that you explore different Spanish culture around the world and help students understand the importance of recognizing those cultures and appreciating those cultures, maybe even as a way of facilitating learning the language?
Okay. While you're making activities and you're having these activities being passed around, you have to make sure that the context is placed in Latin America, rather than having a role play at a McDonald's, for example, an American restaurant. It'll take place in Mexico, and it'll take place in a location where the waiter only speaks Spanish, obviously. So instead of talking dollars, they're talking pesos.
Some of the ways that I've tried to facilitate my own language acquisition, like you say, in terms of getting glimpses into the culture, for a while I had another app, News and Slow Spanish.
I've heard of it.
And because I'm a kind of a news hound, right? And I thought, all right, this will help contextualize, because I can sort of guess at some of it, even if I'm not really positive. And then, in the evening, if I have a little time, I'll switch on Univision or something like that. I was telling somebody the other day about this, and she said, "Well, what were you watching?" I said, "I don't know. I think it was called Enamorados," and she laughed. She thought that was pretty funny. The love game, right? And right, I'm still desperate to fill my head and to learn more and to get better at this. How do you help them make that connection to the importance of bilingualism or multilingualism, especially Spanish, in their personal and maybe their professional lives?
Well, actually, that's a really good question. If you look at the statistics of the U.S. Census, I don't know if you're aware, but by 2050, the Hispanic population will be considered the majority and not the minority for the first time. So that in itself shows you the importance of being able to communicate with these different individuals, not just English only. Today, if you go to TJ Maxx, you'll hear over the intercom, Spanish, line 1 is open, registered in Spanish. You go to Target, there's announcements in Spanish. So it just shows you how powerful the Hispanic population is becoming. And in the classroom, something that's very, very easy to do for them to cherish what they already know, even if it's a little bit, is applying it. And I don't mean writing, I don't mean reading, I just mean listening, understanding words, understanding cognitive. And that is a type of bilingualism. Bilingualism is not just reading in both languages and writing in both languages. You can be a passive bilingual, meaning you understand the conversation, you understand the movie, you understand what's going on, which is way better than a monolingual English-only speaker.
I think I might be creeping toward passive bilingualism. I like that. I now have a phrase for what I am. Thank you for that.
That is a type of that is a type of bilingualism.
Okay.
It is. And in my classes, that is guaranteed when they finish the course. If they're able to produce that, that's a bonus. But yes, that's definitely something that's guaranteed when they finish my class.
All right, we try to keep these snippets of night spotlights to less than 10 minutes. And I didn't prepare you for this question, but you and I were talking just before we got started today, and I'd be curious to hear a little bit about this, right? About students you have in your classes who grow up in bilingual homes. We sometimes refer to them as Generation 1.5 students. What are the particular challenges those students might face, and how do you address those in your class?
Okay. So they're called heritage speakers, meaning they're raised in a home where Spanish is spoken, but then in the school system, it's all English. So given that they learn their first language at home before attending school, it means they gain the implicit knowledge. And then they go into school and then they focus on English, their explicit grammar. So when they end up in college, like as we were talking before, they might have the implicit knowledge, they might have that R pronunciation, Rodriguez, but they don't have any explicit knowledge. They don't know where the accent goes. They don't know what's a conjugation. They don't know what's a time tense. They don't know what the subjunctive is. We have heritage speakers and second language learners. How can we both benefit from this class? And that's combining them. So while working with a second language learner, they'll learn the explicit information from textbooks, the partner, while the second language learner learns a native-like accent and the implicit, is this correct? So they both benefit from that class, even if it's a beginning level class.
Fascinating. All right, last question. If a student or an employee, for that matter, wants to learn more about learning Spanish in Northern Essex, where do they go? What do they do?
Okay, so the easiest thing to do is to write me an email. And I'm the main head honcho, so I take care of all the students that are registered. And if they have any questions, they can contact me. And if they're like, you know what, I don't want to go, then just register. And once you're registered and you're in the class, we'll talk about the curriculum and how we're going to go about getting you where you want to be.
All right, you heard right from the head honcho, El Jefe de Español, the man himself. Thank you, Arnaldo, so much for sharing your time today and your wisdom and your
My pleasure.
Incredible experience. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for Night Spotlight.